Before we get into the topic of today, I just want to introduce our facilitator, the Senior VP of Client Management for Insurance Business. Munish, tell us a little bit about yourself and why did you choose your career?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Munish Mahajan. Like Shamika mentioned, I'm with EXL. I'm the Senior Vice President and I look after client management for our insurance business. So what I do today and why I chose my career. So I'll tell you a little bit about my interest when I was growing up. So when I was very young, I think there were 2, 3 things that I was very fascinated with. The first one was travel. I come from a very small town in India, and I was always fascinated about traveling to multiple cities. And now when I reflect back and I think that's probably the best thing that I did. Travel, I believe, is the best education that you can get. It allows you to explore different cultures, religions, geographies. So I always was very keen to travel. Whatever I wanted to do, I wanted to ensure that there was travel involved. Second thing that I was very, very amazed by was technology. I used to be really amazed how technology kept changing and how things were becoming better and better. And then lastly, I realized that I was not an introvert person. I can't sit alone. I always need people around me. So I really used to like meeting with people. So these were literally the criteria that I used to look for, when I would take up a job. In fact, I grew up in a joint family in a very small town, and there was a joke in our family at that point in time. You won't believe this, Shamika and others. There were literally 50 people in our house when we grew up. And the joke was we had a big house. So every time and that time we didn't have mobile phones. We had the landline. So when people would call, they would tell me that every time they call me, they hear a new voice because somebody new answers the phone. And they say every time you go to your house, a new person opens the door. So how many people like really live in there? But I think that's why I'm very fond of staying with people. So that was the criteria. Now today, what I do. Like I said, I'm the Senior Vice President of Client Relationship. Really, my job is to look after our clients at EXL. Now, our clients are spread across the US, and we have delivery locations in multiple parts of the world. So because of my work today, I travel across US. I travel to India, Europe, Africa, Philippines, Australia, Japan. So that fulfills, what I really wanted to do, when I was really, really young. Now, as part of my job and as part of my role, what we offer our clients is really this new age technologies. So we implement solutions, digital technology that can actually help them reduce their cost of running the business, become more profitable, generate better customer experience. And in doing so, in just doing my job, all I do is I basically meet different people. I meet CEOs, CFOs, and all the C-suite of multiple, various companies. So if you really think about it, what I wanted to do, I was very fond of traveling. I wanted to meet people, and I wanted to leverage technology, and that's exactly what I'm doing today. In fact, I was telling somebody before COVID, I was on an average taking 8 flights a week. So I spent more time in the aircraft than I spent time at home.
Wow.
That's how I kind of landed up where I am today, Shamika.
Well, I have to ask before we jump in anymore, how much flying do you do today?
I was out of the country for 15 days. I got back in US on Friday, and I'm traveling to India on Monday. So wow. I'm literally here for a week. So last 2 weeks I was out. I'm here for a week. Next week I'm out. I know end of October I'm in Philippines. And I usually stop planning after 3 weeks because kind of calendar gets pretty crazy. And I find it difficult to stay up to date with that. But, since COVID is thankfully behind us, travel has resumed. So yeah, it's not 8 flights a week yet, but the way it's going, I think I'm going to get there pretty quickly.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. And so we're going to go ahead and jump into our topic. And today's topic is lesson one of cruise into your future, chart it now. So I'm going to hand it over to you and you just take it on from here.
Sure, sure. I'll be glad to. And this actually reminds me the importance of planning, especially your career. I remember when I was, I think, early in my career, I played a game with one of my teams. I think it was in the Philippines. So I asked the team. I said, "Let's just plan a vacation." And assuming that we have to go to, you guys are in Orlando. Let's say that we have to, go to Florida, but we were going to plan a beach vacation. And I said, you help me plan this vacation. What all do we need to do to really have a very good vacation? So I said, tell me what all we need. And then, things started coming up. Oh, we need to identify a good beach. Yeah, absolutely. We need a good beach. We need to identify a good resort. Of course, we have to stay in a good resort. We have to decide which airlines we are going to take. So, airline that has better reputation, which is economical, is comfortable. Absolutely. And we have to reach there on time so we can maximize our stay there. Oh, absolutely. We're going to take sunscreen. We're going to go on the beach. We're going to take a swimwear. Yes. We're going to take sunglasses. We're going to take swimming glasses. Absolutely. Oh, we need beach towels. Yes, absolutely. We need that. Or we should book everything in advance. Like we should do snorkeling lessons. We should do diving lessons. Maybe we should rent a yacht. So there were like 50 items, that we listed down that we must have if we are to have a very good beach vacation. I said, that is fantastic. That is super. If we do all this, I can guarantee that we will have a wonderful vacation. My next question to them was, what is it that you need to do for you to have a very good career? So if you were to plan your career, then what would you do? Like, what was the criteria? So the first option came, oh yes, I want to ensure that I get paid really, really well. So of course, yes, without money, very few people who want to work. What's the second most important thing? Second person said, I want to be at a very senior position. Eventually you'll get there, but yes, let's assume that you get a starting position. And believe me or not, there were just probably one more option that came, one more suggestion that came, and they were out of it. And then I compared. I said, look, when you are planning a vacation, when you're planning to go to a beach, you have 50 items that you could tell where you want to go. And here you are talking about your career. And then you ran out after like three options. And those two, like, you want a senior position, you want money. It just tells us that the things that are important in life, we're probably not spending enough time. We're not thinking about that enough. The one that's actually more meaningful to you. So that's the importance, really, I think, what I believe that you must pay a lot of attention that what you want to do, how are you going to get there? So that was important for me. And then, the question came, yes, we want to go there, but we're really not sure, how to go there. And then, we made certain points and please feel free to, ask me any questions. If there are any questions in between, please feel free to pause. But if I was to reflect at my own career and things that I did or I could have done better, if I was to share some of those, I think it's extremely important that you pay attention to your interests, your character, what you like and what you dislike. Because I tell I have a 10-year-old son, and every time I have to travel, he's, as you can imagine, he's not very happy. He says, why do you have to travel? He'll call me, can you come back tomorrow? Can you come back today? He'll always say that. But the reason I'm mentioning that is you take away good amount of your personal time from your personal life, which you spend at work. And I say this to people that we actually live two lives, one at home and one at work. Both the lives, you have to plan really well. Of course, if you have a good family, if you have a good spouse, if you are a good mother, good father, good brother, good sister, you can have a very healthy life. And similarly at work, if you enjoy what you do, if you are really good at what you are doing, you can have a very healthy professional life as well. And it's extremely important because if you think about your day, most part of the time when you are actually awake, you are at work. By the time you reach home, you are tired, you have a meal, you spend a little bit of time with your family, and then you go off to sleep. And then you get up early morning and then you're off to work again. So it's extremely important that you end up at a career which you really enjoy, because that's where you're spending bulk of your time. Now, how do you do that? I think this is early part of your career. So this is like really the right time. So in my view, you should pay attention to your interests, what kind of personality you have, what kind of character you have, what you like, what you dislike, even values. For example, kindness over money. I think most people at this point in time want to earn more. They want a high paying job. But then you'll come across people who actually are more affectionate. They care about changing the lives of other people. So you really have to think that what is it that motivates you more? Once you identify that, then you need to start thinking about the skills that you need to require. And by skills, some people at times get confused, and some people say, well, I'm not that smart. That person is smart. Maybe I'm not meant for this job. And I think they're not able to differentiate between talent and skills. See, talent is something that you are born with, something that you are naturally very good at. Skills is something that you acquire over a period of time by practicing every day, day in, day out. Skills is something that you can absolutely acquire. So you need to know the skills that are required for the career that you are going in. Then I think what is most important is these days staying relevant and staying updated about your surrounding. Like, are you really reading news? Are you learning about your economy? What are the jobs that are in demand? And you don't want to enter a career or take up a job that is going to be irrelevant very, very soon. In fact, I was thinking, I don't know how many of you will relate to it, and or how many of you have seen those print cameras that we used to have earlier, where you would literally carry a camera with you and you'll take a picture and then you will go to a studio and then they will give you the photograph that you have. That doesn't exist anymore. You used to have printed maps that we would carry every time we were driving. You don't have that anymore. People don't get physical newspaper anymore. Fax machines, handwritten letters, landline phones that I was talking about earlier, wristwatches, and in certain areas, even cabs. Mostly people just Uber now or Lyft. They don't really have cabs. The reason I'm saying all this is there are things that have been eliminated from our lives, from this world, and there are things that will be eliminated in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So it's important as you marry and really map your interests and your hobbies. It's extremely important to stay relevant and see how technology is changing the job market today, because you want to be in an area which is going to stay relevant for the next at least 20 odd years. You don't want to enter an industry which is going to be wiped out by technology. Then I think once you identify that, you have mapped your skills, you've mapped your interests, you've identified a job, and you read and you realize that, yes, this is going to stay relevant. Then I think what is important is then you set your goals. Then you have a short-term goal, you have a mid-term goal, you have a long-term goal. Once you have the goal, then you really have to just execute on them. Now, it's important that when you are mapping your goals, what are the resources that you have at hand? I think everything starts at home, right? So you got your parents, you got your teachers, you got your counselors, you got your friends, you can take up some part-time jobs. That's where you learn the different opportunities that are available. That's where you learn the different kind of jobs that are available. So all these things, I think if you put together, if you use your resources appropriately, if you try to understand yourself appropriately and identify what you like, what you don't like, and then you identify a career that you are interested in, create certain goals, and then go about it. You do the planning in such a manner, I think you will land up in a fairly comfortable position. And I was telling this to somebody that, you guys are fairly young. I think this is the right time. This is truly the golden time for you. And the quote that I gave to this person is that you really can lay a good foundation at this stage of your, career. And remember this, that when the roots are strong, there is really no reason to fear the winds. So it doesn't matter the economy changes tomorrow. It doesn't matter what technology comes tomorrow, how the macroeconomics work tomorrow. As long as you are laying a good foundation, I think this will really help you become very successful at work. So this is, these are some of the things that I wanted to share, but I'll be very happy if there are any questions or if there are any comments or if you want me to talk about any particular topic. I would like to see if there is any, if we can engage a little bit, but I'll maybe pause and see if there are any questions or any particular topic that you want me to touch upon.
Right now, we don't have any questions coming up through the Facebook group, but I'll see do we have any questions here in the Zoom room?
If not, maybe Shamika, you can tell me, like what are some of the other areas that you can want me to cover, and I'm happy to cover that.
Sure. Excuse me. And so you did a good job, I think, with giving some really good tips about what's important to keep in mind as you select your career. And so is there anything that you would like to share, even your experience of how you founded your career and realized it was the right fit for you? How do you find something that's customized for you and it's the way for you to go?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I'll tell you that it wasn't the role that I'm playing today, this was not my first job. So it's not that I started my career with my dream job. There are multiple jobs that I had actually performed before I landed where I am. So it's really, think of it like this, that if you have a clear goal and you want to get there, it doesn't mean you'll start from your dream job, but there are multiple roles that you will have to play. There are multiple jobs that you might have to do. And as you do that, you acquire certain skills and you prepare yourself even more for that dream job or the dream role that you have in mind. So when I started, for example, I started in a software development company and I was actually writing codes. I used to be a software developer. And I did not like that job at all, because that really meant that you are sitting in front of a computer and all you're doing is just coding every single day. You're not talking to people, you're not traveling. It had everything that I did not want to do. But at that point in time, I knew that I have to gain some sort of experience to do that. But as I did that, I was expressing constantly with my leadership that I would love to explore the opportunity of, either to travel or to engage with clients. So I had to market myself instead of waiting for the job to come to me, instead of waiting for the opportunity to come to me. So it was me who was telling my leadership that these are my interest areas. Now, I had to be good at what I was doing so that they could see the value. Because if you're not doing justice to your current role, your supervisors really won't listen to you, because, well, you are in a job that you're not really performing. But if you're really good at what you are doing, then there is appetite. Then the leadership will think, or the seniors will think that, yes, this person seems to be doing really well. Maybe we can offer another role. So I had to constantly throughout this journey navigate. For example, first time when I went out of India, I grew up in India. First time I went out of India was in 1999. My first trip was to Australia. And at that point in time, there was no social media, there was no YouTube. Really, the cultural shock, term was more relevant back then. But as I went there, I really liked, and then I realized that I want to live abroad to experience, because it's very different when you visit versus when you actually live in a different country. So then I started exploring overseas openings in my country, in my company. So then I ended up going to Australia. I lived there. From there, I moved on to England. Then I moved to Philippines. But throughout my journey, I can tell you this, Shamika, if I had not expressed my interests, if I had not really made the leadership aware that this is what I want to do, it wouldn't have come to me. So if you want to do something, you got to ask for it. Sometimes you are assuming that they will know what you want. Most of the cases, it's not the case. So I really had to, one, understand where I wanted to go, what were the skills that were required to do that, but then most importantly, constantly informing and expressing yourself and really carving out your own path. So doing all that is where I have landed today.
Awesome. And we did have a question to drop into the chat. What are some fields that you think will be ending in the next 10 years?
So there are going to be multiple, by the way. For example, if you think about, uh, again, travel agencies, right? People who plan your trips. I think that's dying. I think the first thing that's going to go away is the paper money or the coins. Already ATM machines are not being used because you use digital currency now. So I think their time will come when I don't think these paper bills will exist at all. And all we will have is a digital currency. You have this customer service when you think of food delivery, when you think of the transportation industry. I would be surprised 20 years down the line if we still have people who are delivering food, if we have people who are driving cars or airplanes. I think this entire industry is going to get automated. I also believe education, for example, today, like let's say I'm sitting in front of you, I'm talking to you, I'm sharing my own experience. But I think artificial intelligence is actually going to eliminate even that, because as artificial intelligence, you could have the experience of multiple Munish Mahajans and actually capture their success, their failure, their career path, and bring the best to this group. So there are multiple industries and roles, I believe, that are going to get eradicated. I think there are few fields which at least as of now, I believe I don't see them getting away. For example, when I think of barber shops, I don't know how else you would do that. It's going to be very difficult. You still will have to go. Now, there might be a bot that might be doing it for you, but still, I don't think you'll be able to do that yourself. Then I think is the food industry. I mean, end of the day, we still have to eat food. Now that might be manufactured by a bot. You could have a machine that is preparing your food, but the ingredients, I think, are still going to be there. There are certain areas I think it will still be relevant, but I would say that if you think of any role, any job that you think is being performed by a person, and ask yourself, can this be automated? And if the answer is, I mean, think of all the retail shops that got first eaten by malls. And now you see all these malls that are closing because of online shopping. And now you look at Amazon. I think like in one day, the Amazon driver comes to our house like 5 times a day, from small thing to big thing. Everything is on Amazon. I don't really recall going to mall to buy something. I straight away go to Amazon and I just order it. So there are multiple areas in which technology, I believe, it's going to be very different. So if anything, I think it's technology that is actually going to survive. So as long as you're in that industry, as long as you're leveraging technology for anything, I think you'll be fine, in my view.
Awesome. I definitely wanted to also ask about, we talked about values and how it's important to consider when determining your career. Is there any example that you can think of, or maybe even perhaps something you utilize with considering your values with selecting your career?
Yeah. I actually believe very strongly that one must pay attention to values of an individual and of an organization. For example, like I was saying, I have a 10-year-old and I have a 16-year-old. And I tell them every now and then, I said, if there are 2, 3 things that I tell you that you must do, I said, for example, never do anything that is illegal. I was telling my kids, I said, never do anything that is illegal. Then I said, secondly, if you're ever in trouble, first person to call is your parents. Don't even think about it. We're always going to be behind you. And then I said, make sure that you have the right company because you become what your company is. That's on the personal side. When I think on the work side, I think there are two or three values that I believe are extremely important. The first one is integrity. I think anything that you do, if you don't have the integrity, if you don't have the truth, if you're not by the side of the truth, I think people are going to struggle. So people must see you somebody full of integrity because that then you don't have to lie, then you don't have to worry about anything. You're always standing by the truth. And I think the second part is respect. It doesn't matter how junior or how senior you are in any organization. Respect is something that should come naturally to you. You want to treat others how you want others to treat you. So I think as long as you are high on integrity and you know how to respect people, you'll be fine. Then I think the most important value in my view is collaboration. There is only so much that I can achieve as an individual, but there is a lot that I can achieve when I work in a team. Now, to work in a team, you really need to collaborate. I might have a very strong point of view. I might have a very strong opinion about something. That still doesn't guarantee that I am right. When I express myself, and if I have the patience to listen to the other person's point of view, other person's opinion, patiently with an open mind, that might change my point of view. But if I go that, oh, I already have it figured out. I know exactly what the solution is. So you guys don't even have to tell me. Just listen to me and you'll be fine. If you go with that attitude, you'll struggle. So you might be fully convinced that you know the answer, you have the solution, but you still must listen to others. You still must have the patience because the other person might be equally convinced. So as long as you can collaborate, as long as you can share your views, understand and listen to others' views, appreciate their views, then I think you'll be able to work in a team. So I think, Shamika, integrity, respect, and your ability to work in a team, which is really collaboration. I mean, we can go on and on, but I would say these are the three fundamental values that I think one must imbibe.
I love that. And I do want to ask a question. You talked about you wanted to live abroad. It's something that seems like you knew early on. And so I did want to ask about that a little bit because that's something we're hearing a lot more now, where people are talking about living abroad for a few years or just permanently. And a lot of conversations, even here in the US, came up when COVID happened and people realized that they could work remote. They didn't have to go into the office. So it gave them the freedom to live in other places. So I just want to kind of ask you any thoughts that you have about people that would consider that, or even if they haven't considered living abroad or moving from far away from where they currently live, like any things to consider about that as they select a career.
Yeah, it's relatively easier now. It wasn't as easy, when we grew up, and at the cost of sounding that I'm very old. We like when I first moved out in 1999, I was very young. But at that time, like I said, there was no social media, there was no YouTube, and you couldn't really do any research online before getting to the place. Nowadays, that's not the case. Nowadays, whichever part of the world you travel to, before you even board the flight to get out of the country, you know exactly which airport you are landing. From there, how long is it going to take, which cab you're going to take, where you're going to stay. I think it's become very, very convenient. But I will tell you this, the part that you have to keep in mind when you travel is again the outlook of that country, the economy, the political stability of that, the geographical nuances of that country. You want to ensure that you're going to a safe place and a better place. You don't go out for the sake of going out. You go out to a better place. That's what you want to do, unless unless you have a cause. For example, if I want to go and serve in a third world country, the underprivileged kids, then I choose that I feel fine, I'm going to be there, and the situation is going to be not as comfortable as my own home country. But then there is a purpose that is attached to it, that I'm going to actually really serve the community, serve the society. So that could be one cause. But other than that, if you are thinking of building a career, you want to, with your spouse, you want to go to a different country, live a life there, then you want to be very careful that what's the political stability of that country, what is the environment, what are the living conditions, and how is the government, thinking about that country? How have they progressed in the last 5, 10 years? And does it seem to be that are they improving? Are the conditions improving? Are they investing in people? Or is it deteriorating? That's first aspect that you need to keep in mind. The second one is that as you will travel, you will leave your family behind. And by that, what I mean is your parents, your brother, your sister, your siblings. And I picked up this quote because I left my hometown in 1999 and I keep going back, but I realized when you travel, you rely on friends. You make friends and they become your family. And then there was this quote that I really loved. It said that family is not where you come from. Family is something that you build as you move on and you meet new friends. So you something that you build as you grow and travel in life. So I think two parts to answer your question, Shamika. One is that you want to do enough research, especially now that you have the resources, to ensure that you are fully comfortable and you are fully aware of the country or the place where you're going. And secondly, be mindful of your loved ones you're going to leave behind. And it's not easy when you go and start a new life. You are always emotional initially. Once you make friends, you build your own social circle, you'll be fine. But one must keep that in mind. It's easier said than done, especially if you're somebody very emotional like me.
Yes, I can attest moving away from home is, I'm not gonna say it's super hard, but it's not always easy. I have definitely been I've put myself in situations where I've been away from home, and currently I live away from home now. It's not another country, but definitely a good bit of distance from my family. But I remember growing up in high school and those young college years that people that they couldn't take it. They were like, I have to go back home. Like, this is great. And they were doing successfully, in terms of the work ethic that they needed to have. But they miss that environment that they were in. And I do feel it's important to get new perspectives. Living
Yep.
in other places allow you that opportunity to get those different perspectives as well. I come from a
Yeah,
small
yeah,
hometown.
yeah. No,
So
traveling, I think, is the best education in my view. I think so. I like even my family. So we actually plan at least 3 international trips a year. And so because we'll ensure that the more they travel, the more you can appreciate the other cultures, the other geographies and other people. And also, it kind of reinforces, gives you a sense of gratitude in life when you do that.
absolutely. So I did have, looks like, another question or two that may have come in. What are some ways that the outlook of another country may affect your decision? I think you may have actually touched on that a little bit earlier, but if you have anything additional you would like to say to that question about the outlook, what are some ways the outlook of another country can affect your decision?
See, I think like when you travel to new places, you go with a certain frame of mind and you go with certain expectations, and you reach there and you see the reality, and then suddenly you realize it's not the same, or sometimes you're exposed to something that you didn't even think about before, and that can have a significant impact on people's life. It did on mine, for example, when I went to Philippines, for example. I spent 12 years in the Philippines. My kids were actually born in Philippines. When I went there, I had a very different opinion about the country. But when I reached there, again, I had a very different appreciation of the country. After I lived there, my opinion again changed about that country. So it constantly influences your mind, it influences your personality in what you think about other people, how you think about giving back to the people. So I think Philippines in particular, the way I did not think about community service as much before I went to Philippines.
Mm,
And I was more transactional, if you will. I was more focused and in the corporate world. But when I reached Philippines, I just realized people are so nice, so wonderful, so polite. And there's certain segment that I believe they deserve a lot more. And that's what influenced me to actually start spending more time and giving back to the community, working with the community. And I wasn't like that before I went there. I just felt I can only do so much as somebody else's job. And there I realized, no, it's everybody's job, including mine.
mhm.
So I think that certainly played in my mind. And if I hadn't gone to Philippines, chances are I wouldn't be doing that. I mean, the fact that I'm taking this session today, I've done this session before, it actually stems from my career, from the time that I spent in the Philippines. So it can change your frame of mind significantly, more than you can realize.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's making me think about some of my recent travels and some things that were insightful. One of the other questions that came through is how do you keep the relationship with your family when you're leaving them behind? So I think that's an excellent question for anybody leaving home, really.
Yeah, that's you'll get different answer if you ask my son, my daughter, and my wife. They're probably not going to agree with me, and I'll tell you that's the hardest part. That's really the hardest part. Every time I have to leave, I live in Long Island. Even if I have to come to Manhattan, where my office is, my son doesn't even want me to go to Manhattan. I'm like going in the morning and coming back in the evening. My 16-year-old daughter, when I travel, she's mostly fine, maybe because she's 16. But then this time I was out for 15 days, and one day I woke up and I received a text from her, and she says, "Dad, when are you coming back? I'm really missing you." Those are the messages you feel like just taking the next flight back home. But then you have to reconcile yourself, with your mind that look, what you're doing is for the betterment of their future. Like I'm in this job so I can support my family better, and I'm doing something that I'm really good at. And if that piece involves travel, if I'm doing something really I'm very passionate about, that will just make me more productive. It will just produce better results. But when I'm with them, few things that I do, for example, once I'm home, I will never open my laptop. I will never keep my phone next to me. If it rings, I will let it ring. If it rings again, only then I'll go and check that maybe there's an emergency. But if it rings once and it's silent, I don't worry about checking. I don't feel like grabbing the phone just because it rings. So I'll keep the gadgets away. I'll keep the laptop away. So when I'm with them, I'm really with them. And then, like if I want to watch a movie, it's not my movie that I want to watch. I really watch mostly, those animated cartoon movies that my son enjoys because it's really his time. Then my daughter, she loves Starbucks. She loves to, shop. So I'll just take her. Okay, fine. Let's just go for a drive. Let me buy you a Starbucks. Let me buy you something, or let's just go for a walk. So really, when you are with them, you spend enough time, and especially when I have to travel, I always know in advance when I need to travel. So just before I travel, I start spending even more time with my kids so that they suddenly don't feel that I'm away. So, like I'll take them to a water park, we'll go to a theme park, we'll spend quality time, and then I'll go. And as soon as I come back, then again I take a day off so that I can spend with them. So it's a balance that you have to create.
Mhm.
Now, you will never be in a situation where you're traveling and you are happy and your family is happy. Then there's something wrong with the relationship. So it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be emotional, but as long as you are able to reconcile that, look, you are doing it out of choice. You have this job out of choice. You could take up a job that doesn't include travel, but then will I be able to contribute and give my 100%? Probably not, because that's not who I am. So you need to be in a job where you can give your 100%. You need to be truthful to your employer as well. So you want to take up a job that you are most suitable for. So as far as family is concerned, really, just like you have to explain to your family why you need to travel, why you need to be away. You have to be truthful to them. And when you are with them, then you spend quality time with them. So
Mhm.
I think those are some of the things that come to my mind. Hopefully.
Yeah, I love that because it's understanding your why and being able to share that with others, so whether it's your family or whoever it is you're encountering, so that they can kind of understand the perspective you're coming from. And then just being present when you're back with your people, your loved ones, being present for them so that they can feel all of that love and being able to balance it that way. So, yeah, I think that's awesome points. Because of the topic that we have here today, I definitely wanted to ask, for the sake of everyone, what are it's a two-part question. What are some mistakes that maybe you have made early in your career? As well as the second part, what is something that you consider a setback at the time, but later realized it was an advantage?
Yeah, I can talk about both. See, mistakes are, and I referenced it slightly earlier when I tell my kids that you have to choose your company, very wisely, because you get influenced with them. So at times I have seen there are really sharp, young employees that we have, and you look at them and you would expect, and you're hoping that you spot somebody, or this kid is really smart, this kid's gonna do wonderful in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And then suddenly you see that employee stops coming, or they are not really performing as much, and they have something going on in their personal life. So the mistakes that you make on your personal life can have serious impact on your professional life. So I think keeping that in mind, that when you get tempted, or when you are influenced by a wrong company, you could have a you could have had a brilliant path, but you just didn't really fully capitalize on that. You didn't really utilize that. So I think the mistake or the things to avoid is really, I'm stressing this again, is really having the right company. Because your company can either encourage you, motivate you, set you rolling in the right direction, or it can deviate you from your path. So I think that's something that one must, especially kids of this age, they must be very mindful of. Few things that look cool and fancy today, they probably are not as cool, 5 years down the line. So always be very, very mindful of that. Setback is something that, the way I see it, is sometimes you have to pause and slow down to gain momentum. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. When I was in Philippines, I moved to US about 7 years ago. When I was in the Philippines, I could have become a senior vice president back then, but that probably I would have hit the ceiling in terms of my career. But I decided to come to US. That delayed my promotion for a while. My career kind of paused for a while, but then after that, it just accelerated significantly, a lot faster than what it would have been in the Philippines. And more importantly, the decision was made was because, of the family. So as long as you are able to reconcile of where you want to go, and if to get there, if you have to slow down or back up a little bit, that is totally fine. Because if you're going in the wrong direction, it's okay to take a U-turn. Just because you are down that path doesn't mean you have to continue going down that path. Maybe it's not leading to where you want to go. So it's okay to slow down. It's okay to take a U-turn. Don't think that you are headed in the wrong direction. You are going in the wrong direction. Purely you can take the right turn. So sometimes you will find yourself in a situation where you think you're not headed in the right direction. You gotta slow it down. You cannot say that I don't have time to put gas in my vehicle because I'm running late. I run out of gas very, very quickly. So it's okay to slow down. It's okay to take a U-turn, but always have your eyes on the post where you are headed.
Awesome. And so, just one last question on my end, outside of course, allowing you to have any thoughts you want to leave with everyone. Are there any books that you would recommend to the students as they're trying to figure out what they want to do in life, figure out their careers? Are there any books that you would recommend?
Yeah, there are many books. Like books is something that I'm very fond of. I encourage a lot of reading to everyone. But if I was to think about you know you getting started, I think Seven Habits is probably the best book that you can start with. It's all because as long as you are able to inculcate right habits, which involves reading, by the way, being one of them, then I think you can go places because you can read about a technical book, you can read about acquiring a particular skill, but really what you're looking for is foundation. So at this point in time, reading the Seven Habits of Highly Effective Leaders and becoming a better person, if you start there, I think that will kind of lay a good foundation for you. And really, I'm stressing on the word foundation because the age where you are today, it's important for you to set the roots very, very deep. Once you have the right foundation, you can grow very tall without worrying about the vibration.
Awesome. Um, I did have another question come in. Are there any podcasts that you recommend as well to go alongside this book recommendation?
Yeah, I think it really would depend on your interests. Like you could pick an interest, whether it's technology, whether it's leadership, whether it is building relationships, whether it is selling. So it really depends on what you really want to achieve. But where, if I was to pick a theme for you, I would not worry about any particular area. What I would really worry about, or what I would really focus on, is becoming disciplined. That's one of the most important things I think that you should focus on. So if you focus yourself on how do I become more disciplined, and by the way, some people think that being disciplined means that you're not going to have fun. That's not the case. In fact, sometimes you're disciplined, you'll probably end up having more fun because you will factor in the sports time or the fun time in your schedule. And I'm not saying you become a machine or you become a bot, but if you are disciplined, if you know invest time in building the right habits and staying disciplined, you'll be able to achieve a lot more. So I would say any podcasts that help you keep your mind in control, that help you allow you to stay in control. I think those are the kind of podcasts that you should first start with, and then you will get clarity in what you want to do. Because end of the day, the most important asset that you have is your time. You need to spend your time like money. You can't spend your time in doing things which are like you wouldn't give away money to buy something that is of no value to you. Similarly, you should not be wasting your time in doing things that are not of value to you. So if you start spending your time like money and utilize that, then I think you will be able to be a lot more productive and you'll be able to achieve a lot more things in life much faster.
Awesome. And so, as we get ready to close out, I wanted to, of course, thank you for your time today, but ask, did you have anything else you would like to leave the students with?
See, I will say uh, life is beautiful. Life is absolutely beautiful. You have a lot of wonderful resources around you. You've got your parents, you've got your teachers, you've got your relatives, you've got your friends. Pick the right company, stay close to your family, inculcate right habits, read good books, and just have a wonderful, wonderful future. And while you are doing all this, enjoy your life. And by enjoy, and there are multiple good ways in which you can enjoy your life. You can pick an instrument, you can pick a sport, you can pick a hobby. So there are ways in which you can really build strong your strong friendships and have fun along the way. So work doesn't have to be boring. Work doesn't have to be stressful. As long as you are able to identify what you really like, you identify the right field, you'll have fun the rest of your life.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Manish, for sharing all of these nuggets of wisdom that you shared with us today. And I just want to remind everyone to tune in with us on next Tuesday, September the 26th. We do have another topic for you, same time, same place. That topic next week is what's your passion? So invite a youth and join us either here or register. We're dropping the link down in the chat in the group. So if you haven't seen it, you can just follow down in the chat so that you can click on that and register. You can come into the Zoom room with us and be able to ask a few questions there, or you can also listen to it here inside of the Facebook group. And of course, a special thanks to the Career Lounge live sponsor, EXL, a leading data analytics and digital operations and solutions company. Learn more about EXL at exlservice.com. And thanks to their sponsorship, again, we're able to bring this to you at no cost. So again, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day. Thank you, everyone.